be okay, still be accepted. And so I think there is a huge threat to the brain. There's a huge threat to the status quo when we are trying to break this. And so to to anyone who's trying to break that cycle of burnout, I just commend every single person who is in that position, no matter where they are in their journey, because it's the most difficult thing. What's that expression? We would rather choose a familiar hell than an unfamiliar heaven.
Mhm,
And I
mhm.
think that really speaks to the way that we kind of get on this hamster wheel of burnout. And it's like we know that this doesn't serve us long term, but we think maybe this time, or hey, at least like people really think I'm killing it when I do this. So it takes a
Mhm.
lot of work, both physically and mentally, to get out of that state.
Yeah, and you work with a lot of high achieving women, as you said, so I can imagine you're seeing that a lot, and it's hard to even unlearn these things, and like you said, it's like you don't have the evidence of that, and that's so true because a lot of the time, a lot of us either grow up or just see, like, you have to work really hard for money, you have to work really hard to be successful, or like money and feeling comfortable and secure is not like a given, you have to earn it and all of this stuff. So, which is like it's not the only thing. And as a woman, like it's even more because we feel like we have to prove ourselves more and just not kind of feed into that idea like we brought up earlier of like when you're on your period, you're emotional and you're whatever. So we almost try and like prove that wrong. So it's just kind of a vicious cycle. And I think also like it just goes to show how much of a holistic, like whole body thing you have to address it all. And I think in the perfect world, a woman would be seeing a therapist, seeing somebody like you, or, and just supporting all the different sides because one thing is going to affect another. If I'm learning anything from these professionals in health and wellness through this podcast, it's that you need multiple people or multiple resources. And it can feel intimidating, but it's definitely worth it. And like you said, instead of figuring it out on your own, it's easier to and better to invest in that, to do it once and have the resources. And I appreciate that you are so open about how it's not just you. You are not the only answer. Like you have to, put other things with it. And if somebody, so I wanted to address this kind of because I feel like we're talking more about not trying to get pregnant. So, if somebody is starting their fertility journey, what do you recommend to them? And like, what do you see a lot of the time? Maybe some misconceptions about that?
Yeah, so there is a lot of bad fertility advice out there. And I think one of the most common and one of the biggest misconceptions, I will meet a lot of women or couples, especially who, either they're starting to try or maybe they've been trying for a few months, a few cycles, and haven't conceived yet. They will get a lot of unsolicited advice about when they should have sex. That is wildly incorrect. I have met so many people who have been told they should be having sex multiple times a day or even every single day throughout the whole cycle. And hey, if you're trying to conceive and you want to, and y'all feel that spark and that attraction, and that's fun for you, then you certainly can. And at the same time, from a scientific standpoint, a woman is not fertile every single day. And so, learning to identify her fertile window is one of the most important things. I was actually talking to a friend the other day who is a fertility nurse, and we were talking about her patients. In general, there are a lot of people who are doing fertility treatments that instead of doing insemination in the clinic or doing IVF, they at first might try to do timed intercourse at home. It is less invasive, of course. It's also cheaper. It's free to have sex in the privacy of your own home. So, obviously, if you can do that, that is a great choice, even if you're doing other medications or treatments to help you out. And we were talking about how many couples have sex at times when they think the woman is going to be fertile, either because of an app or, you know, the calendar method, this assumption that it's somewhere around day 12 or day 14 or whatever, and how there have been some really interesting studies that have shown that I can't quote the exact percentage, but it's somewhere in the 40s. Something like 40% of couples in this particular study were trying to conceive at a time that was not even in the female partner's fertile window. And then there are lots of other, oh, you can't go to the bathroom after sex. You've got to put your legs up off the, up the wall. You've got to do it in a certain position. And those things are not true. And they are certainly not the most important things. And so, aside from the fact that I don't think people should be giving couples unsolicited advice about their sex lives or fertility, I also think that sometimes we're adding stress over things that are so minuscule and don't really make that much of a difference. They aren't the really big needle movers when it comes to improving fertility anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think back to, like, confirmation bias or just, like, these anecdotal examples that people throw out, like, there, like, "Oh, I had sex on this day, and the sun was out, and I was turned northeast," like, you just hear all these crazy things, and it's like, let's look at the hard facts first, and I know at some point a lot of people feel so desperate and like they're struggling so much, and this is not directed at those people, but, there is so much unsolicited advice, like, I was talking about this before with another guest, and it's like before you're even pregnant, then when you're pregnant, like, you are already, like, subjected to so many opinions. And, is do you find like I feel like there's more infertility now than ever? Is that just because it seems that way because of social media? Or I mean, are there ideas out there for why? I know a lot of people say a lot of different things.
Yeah, I do think infertility is rising, but I think there are also multiple causes. Um, I think that stress is a big factor. I have had clients who have struggled with fertility, and most of them are in some of the most demanding and male dominated professions. And they're brilliant, incredible women, but I do see that. I think there can be environmental factors. Something that a lot of people will talk about is how if you work in an IVF clinic, you aren't allowed to wear perfume because fragrance, when something has fragrance on the label, we don't actually know what the ingredients are. And so a lot of things that have a fragrance in them contain things that can disrupt your hormones. And so a lot of times we're getting chemical or environmental exposures. And look, I am really not, um, I think I have a very balanced approach to things like cleaning items and skincare. I don't think that everything has to come from an essential oil or what have you, but I do think we deserve to have this information disclosed and to be able to make decisions that aren't going to negatively impact our hormones because those can have long term consequences. And then I think, certainly other oftentimes lifestyle related diseases can play a role. Genetics, certainly, though that is the minority. I think a lot of it is either environmental or lifestyle related. And that also does not mean that I think it's the fault of the patient because, oh my goodness, we are all trying our best and no one deserves to have to struggle with that because that's such a personal and precious part of life.
Yeah, that's an important part to mention too, for sure. Through this whole, episode, I none of this is anybody's fault. And if you don't have the time, energy, or understanding of any of this, like it totally is valid and like we understand that. So before we like wrap up, I'm curious if there's anything that comes up a lot for you that you'd like to clear up for anybody listening, like other misconceptions, or just anything that you want to recommend people do just on like a base level every month to support their menstrual health.
Ooh, that's a good question. I would say there are a couple of things that you could do on a daily basis that can make a huge difference. One would be um, try to support your circadian rhythm. Right now, we have a lot of daylight and we can use this to our advantage. So in the morning, try to get outside. I know that even if you're like me and you're in an area that's hot, wake up early and get some sunlight in your eyes because that starts regulating your circadian rhythm and that does support your hormones. It supports your energy. It can even help with things like metabolism. Eat breakfast, even if it's small before you have that cup of coffee or if you have any kind of caffeine in the morning. Try to get some food in first so that you are fueling your body and really giving yourself something substantial to run on. And then, especially for women, eat more protein. Most women are not getting near enough protein, and our muscles and brains both need it. So, especially if you're struggling with your energy levels or your mood, the same amino acids that your muscles need, your happy hormones, your neurotransmitters like serotonin and dopamine need too. So, try to eat more protein in every single meal. And if you do those three things, even if you can't do anything else yet, then you'll still feel a difference.
We didn't really mention exercise or anything, so I'm curious what you say about that too. And I know also that like if you work out a lot, it could maybe not stunt, you could affect your period, or maybe I'm making that up.
If you are working out, if somebody is like training as like a college athlete, a professional athlete, if they're like training for multiple hours every day and they are either intentionally or unintentionally restricting their nutrition, like if they're under eating and their energy availability is really dropping, then that certainly
Mhm.
could. That doesn't necessarily mean that if you are just somebody that works out on a regular basis, you're going to have that same issue. It kind of depends on your personal medical history
Mhm.
and that big picture too. I think I am personally a huge advocate for, first of all, whatever kind of exercise makes you feel good, because I think that exercise should be fun. However, if I were going to really advocate for a specific method, it would be strength training. I want women to feel empowered by their own strength in as many ways as possible. So, not just physical strength, but yes, physical strength too, for several reasons.
Mhm.
One is building muscle. When we build muscle, there can be a few different advantages to this. One is it helps with longevity. So, being able to age in a healthy way to support our bone structure, to be able to, it even helps regulate our nervous system because it is putting kind of a stress on the body. And then as we recover, it actually helps make us more resilient to stress too. So, I think that's amazing. And when we build muscle, we actually don't have to work out as much. So, if somebody is really busy, and as a lot of my clients are, a lot, either work demanding jobs, they're moms, what have you, they are like, how do I get healthier when, 5 years ago, I was working out 5 days a week and now I don't know how I'm going to fit that in now. No problem. Can you strength train twice a week? If you could strength train twice a week and that's something that's sustainable for you and that you can keep up with, you could make a huge difference in your physical fitness and your overall health just from that alone. And because you're building muscle and you need time to let those tears repair and that muscle to rebuild, you can honestly spend more time resting or living the rest of your life as efficiently as possible without needing to feel like you're a hamster on a wheel and needing to get a lot of workouts in.
Hi everyone, this is Kim in editing. I just wanted to let you know that for some reason my audio cut out, and these final clips of Audrey are the last of the conversation, and for whatever reason, I am missing from them. So, this is just a